So there are a couple things that I wanted to touch on today. Um, First off, Happy New Year. It's 2019. So I think that I'll go ahead and get straight into it. It's 2019, and this is a facet of my anxious mind that I've been pretty transparent about to people who are close to me, but not really been like very clear about it. So ever since I was a teenager, I would say I've been doing this for close to 10 years, where it's like the odd number years are going to be the terrible years, like suffering, disappointment, sadness, etc. While the even number years are going to be the good years, where there's a lot of growth, where there's going to be a lot of fun, everything is going to work out in my favor. And so it really made like every other New Year's Eve enjoyable. Because either it'd be entering an odd number year or an even number year. And the same goes for like a New Year's Eve celebration. It's like the way that I'd celebrate New Year's Eve, leaving an even number year would be spectacular. And the way that I'd celebrate leaving an odd number year would be really disappointing. So let me make sure I said all that right. Celebrating New Year's Eve going into an odd number year would be spectacular. And celebrating New Year's Eve going into an even numbered year would be kind of disappointing. This is just something that, and I know that I've created in my head. Like my heart tells me that. Like I said, your heart's hormonal glands, and I can tell that this is just something that I've created in my mind. Because when I look back on 2018, when I look back on 2016, 2014, there were times in all of those years when I was feeling really low. There was a lot of disappointment, there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of worry. But I don't really know where that idea came from. I think that, I just think that an anxious mind, the idea that I've developed is that an anxious mind tends to create patterns or circumstances per se to find explanations. And so I think that going into 2019, rather than seeing this as kind of a dreadful beginning, like, okay, shit, it's 2019, it's an odd number year, things aren't going to work out in my favor, let's go into that and let's prove that wrong. Let's consider that to be an intrusive thought, just like anything else. And I didn't really think about it that way until recently, that it's 2019, I have this planned, but since it's an odd number year, something about it's not going to go right. That's an intrusive thought. And then the way I handle that is flip it from what if to so what, right? So what if it goes wrong? Then it just didn't go right. That's life. And then just allow it, engage it, run towards it. Let that feeling do whatever it needs to do to you. Let it manifest, and then do something that engages you. And I've gone over this part, and so that's how I've handled other intrusive thoughts. So I'm considering like this pattern that I've created to be an intrusive thought. And I'm not really one for New Year's resolutions, but I would say if I were to have one per se, if I were to have to come up with an answer, that would be it, to prove this mental pattern wrong that my true authentic self knows I've just created in my mind. I guess I've just never been one for New Year's resolutions, and you can disagree with me on this, is that I just think the biggest change comes from small gradual change rather than flipping a switch. But that's a whole different topic. So I think with that being said, I'm really curious to hear, to anyone else who's watching this, what kind of patterns or like rituals have you created that you do, or that you follow, or that you believe, or that you validate, you give power to, in order to find an explanation for things or seek comfort in things. So it's like, for me, for example, like in 2018, it'd be like, oh, things feel terrible right now, but it's 2018, so it's all going to work out. And then the opposite would be like, and so that was a sense of comfort for me. But then the opposite would apply in 2019, is I'd be excited about something, but then I'd know that it's 2019 and that it's an odd number year, things aren't going to work in my favor, so I shouldn't be excited about it because something's going to go wrong. So that is an intrusive thought. The comforting part and the non-comforting part, intrusive thought. So I'm curious to know, like, what other patterns or kind of rituals that you've created or that you've followed or given power to, and what you make of them and how you overcome them, or simply what you think of them. And you know how to get in contact with me. You can, comment on this video. I'm always available through Instagram, email, whatever, Facebook, whatever you're most comfortable with, WhatsApp, anything. But I think that that's one thing I really wanted to address, is that this is a pattern that I've followed since early high school. Trying to create these false patterns of life to find understanding, or just to find answers, or to validate things, or just for things to make sense. So that's one part. The next part I wanted to get into was setbacks. So I was in India for the past 2.5 weeks. Go to India, beautiful country, but that's beyond the point. I come back, and I would say while I was away, and I keep track of my anxiety and sense of well-being on a daily basis, on a scale between 1 to 10. Anxiety, 1 being worry-free. I may have explained this in an earlier video. 10 being full-blown panic attack. Well-being, switch it around. 1 being everything's doomed. 10 being you're high on life. So I keep track of that roughly every day. Multiple times a day, if I can. Because, I think everyone knows that anxiety just really comes and goes in waves. I would say while I was away, my anxiety level averaged anywhere between a 1 and a 3. My sense of well-being was anywhere between a 6 and a 9, which, I mean, it felt pretty good. And then I come back here, and I'm back in the routine, and I'm back in a place where I have suffered a lot, just in my own head. And so I think returning to that place from somewhere that you found so beautiful can serve as a trigger. There were a lot of tears on the return flight home, which I think was a combination. I flew back on New Year's Day. So I'd celebrated New Year's Eve the night before. Alcohol was involved. And didn't drink heavily, but I mean, I have no sympathy for myself in that regard, because I know good and well that there is a correlation, for me at least, when I drink alcohol more than a moderate amount, and when I wake up the next morning, I'm going to be stricken with a lot of anxiety. So, combination of that, which, like I said, I have no sympathy for myself for at all, because I know exactly why it is I did it to myself. I made that decision. But also, I think knowing that I was coming back to a routine where that reminded me of just like a kind of a dark place. And I remember in a lot of my reading and understanding of improving just your mental status is setbacks are common. Setbacks are extremely common, and they're going to happen. So last week was tough. Last week was really, really tough. I took a day off work just because I really didn't feel like getting out of bed. And I was just sad. I just kind of felt, I went to Bangkok this weekend, and I just kind of felt like I had that cloud following me everywhere again. And I think everyone knows what I mean when I say that. Everyone who can relate knows what I mean when I say that. This cloud, this is just kind of hovering over you everywhere you go. And I felt that coming back. Negative thoughts coming back. And so I think that I said earlier on that improvement isn't just an elevation, it's like a heart monitor. That you're going to be feeling really well, and then you're going to be feeling really low at times. You're going to be feeling really well, you're going to be feeling really low. But if you just keep trusting, keep doing your homework and believing in yourself, I mean, just trust the process, whether it be meditation for you, whether it be talking to people or talking to someone special, whatever you do, or just the practices or the ideas that I've shared. And if they've resonated well with you, trust it in a way that settles well with your own mind. It will level out, and it will get better. I mean, it sucks. Setbacks suck, but I mean, right now I feel better than I did. I got my first day back was last Wednesday. Today's Monday. I feel a lot better. And I knew that I knew that I would, and I think that that's one thing that I want to say again out loud and clear, is that when you're feeling low, it's so easy to think that this is never going to go away. I'm going to be feeling like this. I'm going to be having these fears, worries, stresses for the rest of my life. And it's going to be in the back of my head for the rest of my life. Like, throw that out the window. And because it will get better. But don't put a stopwatch on it. Just because it hasn't gotten better in 2 months doesn't mean that you're not improving. Just because it hasn't gotten better in 6 months does not mean you're not improving. It's different for everybody. So I experienced, I'd say, my first real setback. I would call it post-travel depression. But hopefully this resonates well, and there are others who choose to watch this that may have experienced something similar. And I want to say it again, like, if you have any questions, if you disagree, or you have anything that you want to add, please reach out to me. It really means a lot, regardless of the content. I'll go onto my page and put other outlets for ways for people to reach out to me, so you can more easily if you choose to. But that's all I wanted to say today. I hope that sits well, and wishing everyone Happy New Year, and hoping everyone enjoyed their holidays. So enjoy the rest of the week.